I bet most of you would agree. School's basically the toughest raid in our life's MMORPG. In this vid, we're gonna deep dive into the OP mobs in this grindfest. Gonna chat about countering these bosses and how to possibly cheese or skip this whole nightmare level. School's like a mandatory grind sesh after the tutorial level of preschool. Parents send their little noobs hoping to farm some easy XP, but boy.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Morning's alarm bell. It straight up casts a fear debuff on you, hits you with some serious ear damage, and nerfs your mood stats by a solid 20%. And man, when you pry your eyes open, GG. You're blasted with more damage to your peepers and hit with a blinding debuff thanks to that merciless sun. Naive noobs try to counteract their sleep debuff with the just 5 more mins spell. But LOL, sometimes that skill glitches out, and instead of 5 mins AFK, they're out for like 500. Pro tip, don't spam that skill at home base. Save it for those grind sessions, so you don't go AWOL on your record. After stuffing their inventory, they gotta fast travel to the school dungeon. Big GG. If your spawn point is close to this hellhole, otherwise you're basically screwed, and that means an even earlier alarm, just stacking up that sleep debuff damage. Once you zone into the tutorial area, these little noobs will face a chain of grindy side quests called classes. For like 40 minutes, these NPCs will drone on about game mechanics, lore, and other crap, supposedly to level you up into a decent human. These NPCs, they're called teachers, and trust me, they're NPCs because they've been dead inside for eons. Years of the same old gameplay totally nerfed their humanity. So brace yourself, they won't hesitate to slap you with a big fat F. Apart from handing out Fs, they can also activate the fundraiser skill, looting gold from your ancestors for school repairs, new windows, and other shiny upgrades. These mobs come with all sorts of builds, from the math mage to the gym jockey. And here's a pro tip. Butter them up with gifts to reduce the frequency of those debuff-causing bad grades. Got a lady teacher? Dangle some choco or candy loot. For the workshop guy or gym coach, offer a bottle of the finest in-game brew. Regularly gifting these NPCs can sometimes trigger the teacher's pet buff. With that buff, brokering deals on grades, attendance, and other BS becomes a cakewalk. Classmates, another mob you'll encounter in the school dungeon. Their level might be close to yours, but man, their stats are all over the place. They can either be your co-op buddy or a PvP nemesis, all depending on your social stats. Pro tip, try to be pals with your class, even if their IQ stats aren't elite. Doing quests in co-op is way more fun than soloing, especially since the school quest line is mad grindy. And if you end up with a ton of enemies, might as well yeet yourself out the window. And speaking of the school's bestiary, there's this mob called the Deputy Head. We just called her the bitch. This mob's super aggro. Just one glare can hit you with a paralyzed debuff. Screw up, and she can pop her call to parents skill, which, as you know, can result in a proper ass whooping. She's a high-tier boss, pulling the strings not just on the teacher NPCs, but also having a big say in the school's quest design. So if you're getting taught some total BS instead of Brawl Stars strats, you bet she's behind it. The only mob higher up the ranks is the principal, the endgame boss. This dude is so OP in this zone that he can straight up boot you out of his guild with the expulsion skill. Few make it into the boss's chamber, but those who do become legends and score mad rep points from the other players. Oh, almost forgot to mention the break time event after each lesson. The bell for break boosts your mood meter, gives you a bit of time to regen stamina, and is perfect for restocking consumables. Some peeps lug theirs around, but most players spend gold in the cafeteria to stock up. It's always jam-packed in there, so if you don't want to spend the whole break stuck in queue, you can disorient the crowd with, let's say, a flash grenade. Some players use the break to self-inflict damage with cigarettes. Some engage in PvP in the hallways, while others just bail to skip some snooze fest of a lesson. Going AWOL gives you an invis buff during class, boosts your mood meter, and grants 40 minutes of free play. Perfect for some game time at the local LN cafe. But if you pull this move too often during the parents' meeting event, there's a high chance of blowing your cover and getting hit with the parental counterattack. If your folks are the assertive type, they might just smack you one. That's why most players use the faking it skill to dodge school. If you've got a ton of points in the acting skill tree, you can legit dodge school without taking a hit. However, if you spam that sick day skill, your folks might develop some heavy resistances. So when you're genuinely feeling wrecked from some bug or whatever, there's a chance they'll just ship you off to the battlegrounds even with your low HP. Another pain. If you play hooky, you gotta catch up on the lost XP, or you'll get slapped with an F on the test event. But if you've leveled up your social stats and got some allies in class, you can activate the copying skill. The more points in the sneak skill tree, the less chance you'll get busted. But if the cheat doesn't trigger, you gotta face the boss yourself. As you figured, it's hella tough to score decently when you're flying blind. But even if you land on an F, don't hit Alt plus F4 just yet. They didn't take away your deception ability. Pop that skill and you can rip out the bad grade, shield tanking your HP from parental wrath. Cause if they spot that F, Dad's smack DPS can go critical, and we're not running on infinite lives here. But sooner or later, they might detect the glitch during the parent-teacher raid. Students have a counter for that misfortune too. When the teacher NPC leaves the room, they can activate that same deception ability to white out those tragic grades. If it procs, the entire class can cash in. But to pull it off, you gotta silence or temporarily disable the goody two-shoes status classmates so they don't blow the whistle. It's a high-risk mission, and only the most valiant players try. Those heroes that boost the grades for the entire class? They're practically paladins with Valhalla-bound souls chauffeured by Valkyries. But paper grade books? That's old gen. Modern school servers rock digital grade logs. Hacking or tampering? Yeah, that's against the TOS. Get caught and you could be flagged for a timeout or, at best, a stern in-game GM chat, the principal, and double damage from the parent NPCs. On a side note, every player's favorite daily quest is homework. It's just oh so fun to sit for 7 consecutive hours grinding XP, then go to the home instance and repeat for another freaking 2 hours. Props to the devs. They really did a bang-up job on this school raid. Good thing we can still exploit the copying skill. Otherwise, I've no idea how these newbies would survive this nightmare mode. But what's the endgame loot? No gold drops, that's for sure. All these side quests are just prep for the major raid bosses. A-levels and IB. Merely mentioning them sends players into a debuffed state. Stunned, incapacitated, and with serious DOT. They're the uber bosses, not even normal mobs. No HP bars, no weak spots. Your epic gear, worthless against them. Your poison-enchanted katana and top-tier plate armor? Trash. They'll CC you hard and demand the definition of bisectors, thermodynamics laws, and anything but what you usually grind in school. Most players pop buffs like private lessons or nerd out to mitigate damage, but even those don't guarantee a win against this monster. And honestly, we wouldn't even mind taking the L so much if the result didn't bind our university spawn points. Better exam scores teleport you to elite zones with top-tier farming spots. Mediocre results? Parent NPCs will need to crank out some serious gold to buy you a decent profession. And that's if they're not broke, 'cause if they are,